Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 12 of the anime series Aria the Scarlet AA. For all intents and purposes, the series finale, and as finales go, I was actually really satisfied with this one. It pretty much did everything I was kind of hoping it would, threw a little bit of a surprise in there with the Sui character, sort of necessitating the coming together once again of all the girls for Akari and Aria, respectively, and the idea that Akari had really stood up. She showed the courage that she's finally evolved into having, in a sense, by being the decoy rather than letting Aria do it. And, she would go get Reki and everything and get help from them, all the other girls and such. We basically see that she wants to be able to prove herself, even at this stage where her life is legitimately being threatened. And it's, like almost an end-level boss. You've already dealt with Kyo, so now you're dealing with an even harder core boss with this giant mecha suit with the Gatling guns, and apparently the other arm can be utilized for other purposes, from like laser beams to like a flamethrower and everything we see, to sort of cordon off the area, keep the cops away and everything like that. And I like that what was integral to this battle was, utilizing the backdrop. I mean, Kyo had set up this backdrop that she thought was all but impenetrable in the previous episode. And by coming together, using, gaseous sort of grenades to, at first, misdirect and create a smoke screen for, the Sui character to have to deal with, to then using sort of chaff grenades. If you've ever played like Metal Gear Solid, you fire them off so the radar can't be used and all that internal computer mechanization can't be used. So she's got to be able to just look through the glass. And then Aria coming in with her sort of, parachute, and she's firing paintballs at the glass so she can't see out the glass. It was just really cool. Like, step by step, they were whittling away the opportunities that the Sui character had in this battle. And it was, of course, somewhat ridiculous, but the entirety of the show has been. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek, and it's definitely skirting the lines of believability. But at least it wasn't, encased with that just out of nowhere, supernatural element that the proper season 1 Aria the Scarlet Ammo had, as I've talked about many times before. It still remained virtually grounded in that final confrontation, and I thought it was interesting, much as I had speculated, that whole showdown between Aria and Akari once again was a final sort of showdown. Aria is still very much being about, we're just so different. You are sort of a team player, and I'm very much not, and all that kind of stuff. Even though, if you watched season 1, she's very much interactive with other characters, Kinji making a cameo at the end once again. But what's confounding and compelling at the same time is Aria is ready to all but wipe her hands of Akari. She's basically told her, we just can't work together. We're not the same. Forget it. It's said and done. I'm ready to move on. You need to go find another Amica. You need to do something else. But I'll entertain this final sort of, confrontation back and forth, this final sparring match. And Aria is ready to really test Akari to the limits. She's prompting her, go full mast. Don't even if it's just me. Like, as soon as you figure out who your opponent is, it's an insult to do anything less than the maximum you can do, even if it's me. So bring it on. And I thought it was absolutely just fascinating that Aria is actually ready with that electro power that Akari has, and she's got that like sort of chainmail or whatever it is, that sort of wire that can taper off the effects, so she's not fully impacted by it. Basically, in other words, she's ready for it. She's ready for that onslaught of that special ability, that special move that calls back to Akari's past and everything like that. She's been keeping an eye on Akari. She knows what she's capable of, and she's not going to let her just use that and suddenly take her down, So they are on equal footing, very much as I hoped they would be by the end. And I thought it was quite fascinating that you have Akari sort of souping up the power again. And we see that there's a cost that comes with this, but it was absolutely awesome seeing Akari be able to get her gun back. And Aria, in that moment, you see her eyes go bug-eyed for a split second. They're like, what? How did that happen? Didn't expect that. But of course, there is that cost, that power configuration where you basically have Akari just passing out on the ground. Gun in hand, but she passes out. So effectively, Aria could go over and take it if she wanted to. And, you got the gun, but you still lost. So, but the promise that's there, seeing Aria recognizing that and actually fully backpedaling on having been ready to wipe her hands of Akari and telling her to move on. Suddenly she has a complete change of pace, change of faith even in Akari, because as the episode is sort of ramping up to its end, do we find that they are official, Butte Amica. That whole thing is now officially a thing. And the studies going on, cases going on, whatever you want to call it, going up against enemies, working together in tandem, is actually a thing for a little while there. Until of course the first joint mission they have after this one, and Akari messes it up, and Artie is like, "Oh, you're back to being a trainee again, you dumb." I thought that was hilarious. Like, I wasn't disappointed by that. I just thought it was par for the course, and it actually made me laugh, as well as that interim scene where you basically have Takachiho and Shino once again both vying for Akari's attentions. That falters because Akari's going off with Aria again, and they decide to have their big posh lunch together and talk about how can we take down Aria, how can we split Aria and Akari up again, sort of bringing it back to a status quo in a sense, and just be filling me with this sense of like so much was accomplished, and it wasn't so much backpedaling as just sort of, okay, everything fell back together the way it should be for now, and leaving it very much open for a continuation of the story at some point down the line. Again, with Kinji's little cameo there, how Akari reacts to him and everything like that. It was just really comical, really made me smile, and like it left me with a positive vibe by the end. And I thought it was interesting as a footnote, as I've been going back and forth with one in the comments for a little while about the EU. Like, I really am dying to learn more about the EU and how that all works, what that's all about, who's involved with it, everything like that. I thought it was quite interesting that we find Kyu and Sui both in, being arrested. Basically, Kyu voices the concern that, well, we're not going to be welcomed back. Strikes me as curious. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. They might, if like they broke out of prison or something like that, you never know. But that's the whole point. We don't know much about the EU, and I really want to find out more about this organization, this syndicate, who's involved, that kind of thing. I would much rather a continuation of this series just because it's, at least to me, much more grounded, much more action-packed, and I thought it was better paced in places, and, Aria herself, being that she is the titular character, I very much, as I said, going very much in the early stages of AA, I felt like she was much more badass and much more the character I thought she should have been portrayed as in the first season, Aria the Scarlet Ammo. It was just really cool seeing that she is an actual thorough badass and not a whiny little pain in the butt character like she comes across to me, at least in season 1. So yeah, otherwise I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen the finale, if you were satisfied by it, if you enjoyed it, if you felt in any way that it was lacking. The only real gripe I had was actually in the early portion of the episode, just before the OP music and credits began and everything like that. The Sui character has a line where I think she's supposed to essentially be saying, if the whole plan with Kyo went south, I was supposed to jump in and take over and intervene, go up against Akari and everything like that. And the translation for that, just that one line of dialogue, was horrible. It made no sense. There was no punctuation or anything. And so it was just that one line of dialogue, very poorly translated, and it just went nowhere. I didn't understand what the sentence was supposed to have been. But that's like really the only gripe I've had for the whole of the episode, for the whole of the finale. And I did think there were a couple of pacing issues where we had like what were essentially kind of filler episodes and lots of yandere stuff that, they could have paced that a little bit better. But by and large, I enjoyed this season a hell of a lot more than the first season of Aria the Scarlet Ammo, and so that's why I would be vying to see a continuation of this as opposed to that. But yeah, as I say, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the finale and what you thought of the series as a whole, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, and whatever problems you may have had with it, if you'd be looking forward to a continuation of it, and such like that. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.